Hello, 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 and welcome to the next episode of the Shane Walsh podcast. So, today's episode is on a very topical episode, which is that element of kind of self sabotage. And for a lot of people, there are self sabotage elements to all walks of life, relationships, losing weight, going for jobs, whatever it might be. And I think these terms that I have here, the word self sabotage can be thrown around a lot. And I think it's basically lost all meaning. And it's important to realize that you've heard it somewhere. So we've heard this word, so it must be us. We've heard that we have a slow metabolism, so it must be us. We've heard the word yo-yo dieter, so it must be us. We've heard that our metabolism slows down as we age, so it must be us. We've heard that a few other things. So, and maybe you've said it about yourself. Maybe you say, I keep self sabotaging. I don't know why I do this. I'll be doing so well, and then I just blow it. I say, fuck it. And here's the thing, it sounds really, really sophisticated. It sounds like it's a clinical, technical term. It sounds like therapy speak. It sounds like you've done that dig deep into that inner work by naming it. But most of the time, for a lot of people, it's not what's happening. Don't get me wrong, there are people in any walk of life, in anything that we do, say relationships, for example, that they don't believe that they deserve to be happy. Or sometimes they could have had a massive traumatic event of they're afraid that someone else could leave them, or someone else that they love, a parent or someone else that has left them, and a way to control the outcome, which is essentially self-sabotage. They will get a bit fearful, they will kind of push back, they will retreat, etc. But when it comes to what we're trying to do, which is in relation to eating a little bit better, losing weight, whatever it might be, most people aren't actually self-sabotaging. They're just terrified of being seen to be trying. And we're going to get into why we do it, how to spot it, and more importantly, what to actually do about it. Because when you can see it clearly, you can't unsee it. And that's when things start to change. So the problem is there's a label attached to self-sabotage, and a lot of people can wear it as a badge of honor. And it gets thrown around so freely. And why most of the time it's actually the wrong diagnosis is what's actually happening is a lot more dulled down, a lot quieter, a lot less obvious. And it's a lot more understandable when you kind of hone in on it. And honestly, it's a lot more fixable, workable with that when you actually figure out what's going on. And what most people are experiencing is this fear of being seen in the process of trying. So if we think of it like this way, self-sabotage implies an active, intentional undermining of yourself. Like a part of your brain is secretly working against you, drilling holes in your own boat. But that's not what most people are experiencing at all. What can help with the useful analogy is a swimming pool analogy. Imagine you're at a swimming pool. You haven't quite figured out how to swim yet. Self-sabotage would be secretly drilling a hole in the pool. But what most of us are actually doing is we're standing on the edge of that swimming pool in our socks or jocks or costume or whatever it might be, but we're not getting in because everyone would watch us splash around. Everyone would see us struggling, and we can't bear that. And it's so much safer not to try. Not trying is the safest place in the world to live. If you don't try, you can't fail publicly. If you quietly stop and start, nobody clocks it. You don't have to explain yourself at Christmas dinner of that you may have lost weight or you may have gained weight. You don't have to deal with the questions. You don't have to deal with the repercussions. You don't have to let anyone else down or perceive to be letting anyone else down. Or some people say, oh, you're still doing that, from people who are never really rooting for you anyway. And there's three fears that underlie it and are underneath it. And when I look at this across the people I've worked with and the thousands of people I've worked with over the last 8.5 years, it always comes back to one or more of the three things: fear of standing out, fear of looking like a failure to others if it doesn't work, and fear of putting themselves first, which for a lot of people has been coded as selfish. And a lot of people I work with are parents. They are afraid of putting themselves first because everyone else will be impacted. But what happens if you frame it and you're actually being selfish by not putting yourself first because everyone else is not going to get to see you there for a long time, get to play with your kids because you're afraid to get into photos? Reframe it. Think of a dark room. It's like being stuck in a dark room with everyone else, comfortable, familiar, and someone offers you a torch. But turning it on means everyone sees you, standing there lit up, trying, so you leave the torch in your pocket and you call it self-sabotage. It's not. It's self-protection. And there's a massive difference between these two things. One is something broken in you that needs fixing. The other is a completely rational response to societal environment that's taught you in that 1,000 small ways that being visible, you're being imperfect is dangerous. So what actually does this look like in real life? How many have lived it? So how do we know this is you? Because it doesn't always look like the way you'd expect. It's rarely dramatic. It's quiet. It's like a small little leak in your tap. Eventually it just bursts. It's ordinary, disguised as common sense. You start things privately. You do things really well, nobody really notices. The moment someone finds out, a partner, a friend, a colleague, something shifts. Oh, what diet are you on? You're looking really well. What diet are you on? The pressure feels different. And then things start to slide. That's not sabotage. That's the visibility starting to feel threatening. I'm standing out. I'm afraid out they're going to say, if I fail in public, I'm going to feel like a failure. You avoid telling people about your goals, not because you don't care about them, but you care enormously. But because if you tell them, you have to almost produce a result. You're going to college, so I must get a degree. I'm doing my driving test, so you must get your driver's license. I'm losing weight, so I must lose 20 kg. And if you don't, now there's an audience for your failure. So you keep it to yourself, which also means you keep yourself isolated in the exact moment where you need the most support. That's why so many people, when they start to feel a little bit uneasy with weight loss, or they start to see changes and other people start to notice, or they feel that they're going a little bit off track, or they feel that there's something is going wrong, that they've started to see a difference, people are starting to notice, and then all of a sudden they start to feel this wobbly thing, they retreat. They go into control mode, which is retreat. Stop checking in. Stop putting themselves first. Stop doing what actually works because they're afraid. This is when people need the most support. Sign 3 is you self-destruct before a milestone. Not at the beginning. You're fine at the beginning. It's when success starts to feel real that things fall apart. Why? Because most of the time success means visibility. It means changing. It means becoming someone who did the thing. And that's unfamiliar. And unfamiliar, even when it's good, it can feel really, really dangerous. So think about it this way. You know that when you say if someone's doing a play or they know a movie and this actor who's rehearsed perfectly but gets sick the night before a show, that's not a coincidence. That's a body finding a way out of the spotlight at the last minute possible. The mind is incredibly, incredibly creative when it comes to protecting us. It will do everything to avoid being uncomfortable. It will do everything in its utmost power to save us from being uncomfortable. But the irony is it keeps us uncomfortable for longer. So you consistently prioritize everyone else's need over your own, which is sign 4. Not because you don't want to change, but because waiting things or wanting things for yourself, putting others first, carving out time that is just for you, that has always felt selfish. But what do you know? If you mimic your parents right now, were they always busy and didn't put themselves first? Or your mom or your dad did it, or your grandparents did it. So you deprioritize yourself. Or did someone say, oh, they're getting notions? Or did someone start making comments when you start to say, oh, you're being selfish, you're going for a walk rather than coming over? Does that start to chip away and then you start to deprioritize yourself? Quietly, consistently, over time until there's nothing left for the thing you actually want. Here's the tell. I want you to sit there and ask yourself, does this happen when nobody is watching? Most people find that when they're completely alone, when nobody knows, when there's no audience, they do fine. It's the moment the audience arrives. When people start to say, oh, what diet are you on? What are you doing? Then it starts to second guess. Are we stepping out of our comfort zone? Are we stepping above our parapet? Real or imagined, that breaks it down. That's your clue. That's the fear of being seen to be doing the work. We need to reframe this. And it's the most important thing in this entire thing. Stop fucking calling it self-sabotage. Because when you call it sabotage, you're treating yourself as the enemy. You're creating an internal war and nobody wins against themselves when it comes to this war. Call it what it is. Fear of visibility. A deep, human, understandable fear that if people see you trying it doesn't work out, you'll be judged, you'll be diminished, you'll be slagged, you'll be punchline. And when you name it, you start to see a different relationship with it. You don't start by announcing and saying, I'm going on a weight loss on your social media. Or you might. You practice being seen in tiny ways first. You tell your husband, your wife, your partner, your best mate. You show up to one class. You don't tell anyone. You order the thing in public. It could be you order a side of vegetables rather than just going for the chips. You make one visible choice and you let yourself survive the visibility of it because your nervous system needs more evidence to prove that you're deserving of it, to prove that being seen doesn't destroy you. You need to decouple yourself from your worth. A huge piece of this story that we actually carry about what it means and to try and not succeed. If you truly believe that failing publicly diminishes you as a person, you will avoid it at all. A lot of people will stay stuck in a career that they don't enjoy for 40 plus years and afraid of going out and doing something on their own, and then they'll regret it. If you ask a lot of people when they're on their diet, their deathbed, the biggest regret is that they don't go for something that they wanted to go for. So to make it a little bit more personal, my aunt and my godmother, who passed away last June, she, very important person in my life, and we had her over for dinner in probably January before she got sick, and we were just chatting, and we were kind of just, she worked in one of the big TV companies here, and she was talking about different people who she'd worked with, presenters, sports personality people, etc. And she'd been to many Olympics and stuff like that. And we were kind of just chatting. The conversation was flowing. And one of the things I asked her was, what's the one piece of advice that you would have? Now, she didn't know that she was sick or anything like that. And I just asked her, what's the one piece of advice you would have? And her advice was, just go for it. And it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, to the point that Neve, my wife, actually got me a watch for my wedding day, for our wedding day, should I say, with that quote from my auntie on the back of it. You only regret the things you don't do. You don't regret the actions you do take. Think about it that way. Give yourself permission to be mid-process in public. We're absolutely fine with people seeing the before. We're absolutely fine with people seeing the after. But when we're in the middle of it, that messy middle, we want us to disappear. The messy middle, where change happens. We can all see before and afters, and I've posted before and afters. A lot of people will see the before and then the after and say, right, I want that. But we're not ready for the messy middle. We're not ready for the days we don't want to do it. We're not ready for the days we're not motivated. We're not ready because people will see us fail in public. It's not polished, it's not finished. It's that messy middle. And the big one that we also have to look at is that putting yourself first. For the people who struggle to prioritize themselves, putting yourself first is not selfish. It's not taking from anyone else. You cannot pour from an empty cup, is a cliche, because it's true. But every time you say no to yourself, you've more credit in the bank against yourself that you don't deserve the changes. The more credit in the bank that you say you're going to go for a walk rather than just sit there and watch TV, then you've more credit in the bank to the person you actually want to become. That's not a betrayal. That's leadership. Other people start to notice. Your kids start to notice. Can I go for a walk with you? Maybe they're struggling as well and they're saying, all right, mom or dad is going for a walk. The question is never, why do I keep failing? It's, what am I afraid of people will see? Trying is the most vulnerable thing a human can do. Trying to ask someone out, trying to go for a new job. It's declaration. It says, I believe something is better possible for me. And that belief shown out loud in a lunchbox, for a dinner, on a meal out, a gym bag, a missed biscuit, less Easter eggs, whatever it might be, a walk at lunch, going to the gym. That's the kind of courage that people don't talk about, the one that never gets spoken out loud. So if you've been telling yourself that you're broken, your metabolism is broken, you're iodine, you're an emotional eater, that you don't deserve this, I'm self-sabotaging, that you're someone who can't stick to things, that there's something fundamentally wrong with your willpower, that I'm lazy, I want you to start to consider a different possibility, because you're none of those things. You're not lazy. You don't lack willpower. You haven't got an ability issue. Maybe you're someone who has been doing the most rational thing possible, protecting yourself from an audience where you never sure you could actually trust. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to start questioning whether that audience has the power you've given them. The true reality is no one actually gives a flying shit if what you do on a daily basis. You don't need to fix your self-sabotage. You need to decide quietly, privately, in whatever way feels true to you, that you are worth being seen, putting yourself first, even mid-process, even imperfect. Because the irony of perfection is it's keeping you stuck. So it's being far from perfect is the irony of perfection. So if this has landed with you, share it with someone that needs to hear it. Share it with someone who wants to hear it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think in DMs. It's not self-sabotage. It's afraid of being seen to be different.